Hi guys, this is Vineet Pandey, and today in my offline batch I was dealing with Anglo-Saxon literature. I thought that I give you the idea the way I teach in my offline classes. See, we talk about Anglo-Saxon literature, which is the first unit, first topic or the first base of British history. Most of the students who are studying Anglo-Saxon literature are depending on market guidebooks. So some of these students who actually make mistakes, I will try my best to help you with points and facts so that you do not make any mistake in future. See, here we go for the slide, and this is in front of you. Anglo-Saxons, but the timing is 450, 650, 1066, 1340. How many of you know the difference between these ages? Because in many books it is written that Anglo-Saxon is 450 to 1340. Some books they say 650 to 1340, but this is also a question that some people say 450 to 1066. So the first thing that I'm going to start is, what is the proper timing of Anglo-Saxons? My friends, England in ancient time was not as a nation, it was a territory occupied by multiple tribes, Vikings, Danes, Scandinavians, rovers, but around 450 multiple tribes, they came from the German area, the Angles, Jutes and Saxons, primarily Saxons who came from Saxony. So the first direct influence of Saxons in the area known as Britain or the area known as England, the first influence comes in 450. That's why most of the scholars, they take the development by 450. But as we all know, when there are hundreds of tribes and they are fighting with each other, what happens? The powerful tribe gradually takes control, and yes, approx 200 years fight. Finally 650 was the time when the peace got established, and approx 7 major tribes were there: Northumbrians, Wessex, Mercians, Frisians. 7 tribes got finally established in that area. Remember this thing, that the first Anglo-Saxon king, King Ethelbert, he was the first man who got converted into Christianity. First Anglo-Saxon king who got converted into Christianity, King Ethelbert of Kent. Please remember this thing. While in the Wessex dynasty, King Alfred, the only king who has been called great in English literature, in English empire, in English history. Now, along with these things, as we move towards the next page to discuss certain things, there were many other tribals, such like Scandinavians, write down these things, rovers, Danes, Vikings, Goths, Frisians, Mercians. There was a question in NET exam, the Mercian dialect. These kind of tribes were already there. As I told you, approx 7 tribes were there, Wessex, Northumbrian. But finally, when these tribals, they started living together under the rule known as Anglo-Saxons, this became the issue. What happened actually? As the Anglo-Saxons were living peacefully, the famous king Edward the Confessor, the childless king Edward the Confessor, he didn't have any legitimate son, any heir for his kingdom, no successor at all. He was the friend of Norman king William the Conqueror. William the Conqueror, the king of Normandy. Normandy was a territory in France. So technically, William was the king of Normans, Norman king. Now my friends, they were best friends. Edward the Confessor, William of Normandy, they were the friends. अपने समय के जय और वीरू थे. We know Edward the Confessor didn't have any legitimate heirs, so he promised that after his death, England or the Anglo-Saxon England, also known as, at that time it was also known as England, also called Britain. with the goddess connection, fallen Britannia, the concept of Britannia. England will belong to this man after the death of Edward the Confessor. So technically one friend told his another best friend that if I die, you become the king. Now what happens? As you all know, this is Ghar Ka Jhagda. So when Edward the Confessor, he dies, Edward the Confessor, he dies, his brother-in-law, Edward the Confessor's brother-in-law, some people say that he was his son, no, brother-in-law, Harold Godwinson, he becomes the king. Harold Godwinson, he becomes the king. Now, as he already had a promise, made a promise to William the Conqueror, but then Harold Godwinson became the king, his brother-in-law. William didn't like it, and William attacked Godwinson, which is also known as Battle of Hastings or the Norman Conquest. So what happened? Here we have to remember this, that William attacked in 1066, also known as Battle of Hastings. Battle of Hastings. And primarily, if we say that the other name for the same thing, it is Norman Conquest, the most important date. Norman Conquest. Now, in 1066, when William and others were fighting, it was not easy to defend or defeat Harold Godwinson. So Harold was also a strong man. Harold Godwinson, the Anglo-Saxon king. William was also a strong man. It was not easy to defeat Harold. So William played a trick. William, he was very smart. He played a trick. He called the team of archers. इसने क्या करा? धनुष बाण चलाने वाले team को बुलाया. The team of archers, and they were given the task to shoot down Harold Godwinson. But Harold Godwinson was safe behind the troops, behind the army, fortress, and along with this, he was heavily covered with bulletproof, iron metal covered things, helmet and everything else. It was not easy at all to kill him. William the Conqueror called the drummers and they started beating drums. Everybody started dancing, enjoying and saying that we have killed Godwinson, we have killed Godwinson. When the English soldiers, the Anglo-Saxon soldiers, they heard this, that Godwinson has been killed, they started running away from the battlefield. So the army of Godwinson got panicked and they started dispersing themselves. This made Harold Godwinson come out of his safe place, and when Godwinson removed his helmet, his protecting shield, to tell that, see, I am alive, this was the chance the archers of William were waiting for this thing. They shot him an arrow and the arrow penetrated his eye and Harold Godwinson died at the spot. Harold was already attacked by one more person known Harold Harada. That is a small fight, 90% students don't know it. Harold Harada also attacked Harold Godwinson, but he couldn't defeat him. As now, in Battle of Norman Conquest, we know that William defeated Harold by trick and they all died. William the Conqueror establishes a new empire, and that is called Anglo-Saxon Norman Empire. Anglo-Saxon Normans. Now they came here. Most of the students, they don't know this thing. They get confused that what was the language of Anglo-Saxons. What was the language? Remember, my friends, Saxons who came from Saxony, they brought their old Latin Germanic language. Saxons brought Old Latin, also known as Old Germanic tribal language. So the first language in English literature, in Anglo-Saxon dynasty, in culture, the first language was Latin. But then in 1066, when Normans came, William of Conqueror, he came from Normandy, the French territory, they brought French. So the first language is Latin, second language is French, And my friends, English is third language in chronology, third language. For example, how many of you know that in India, Tamil is the oldest language, then Sanskrit? Because the Aryans who crossed Hindu Kush mountain, Middle East and came to India and got settled around the big rivers, the Aryans, they are not the real Indians. We all have come from other land 5,000 years back. The Dravids are the real Indians. So what happens here? The angels, the real English people, then Saxons and Normans, they started living together, and that becomes the complete British Empire or English Empire. Now, the question is, what are the trends here? What are the literary trends here? What are the issues here? See, the very first thing was that most of these tribal areas, most of these people, they used to know about Christianity. But when the Normans came, they also got introduced to Christianity because the Normans were actually following paganism. Remember this thing. Normans were following paganism. What is paganism? Also known as pantheism. They used to follow the gods in nature. One of the most important writer of Romantic age, William Wordsworth, in one of his famous poetry says, I want to be a pagan, I want to see Triton, I want to see Proteus, I want to live like them. It is your question for you. Write in the comments what is the name of that poetry I'm talking about. I'm sure you can answer. It's not that tough, my friends. See this thing. First concept of Christianity. Second thing that you have to remember is in Anglo-Saxon Empire, the idea of idealism was also prevailing. Idea of idealism, that one should live a life like a brave man. And here we find King Arthur, Arthur's legend, Arthurian legend. Do you know there was a question in NET exam that how King Arthur gets killed, who kills him? My friends, remember this thing, what happens? In Arthurian legend, you know, this kind of literature, Arthurian legend is one of the most important literature, most important part of literary history in Anglo-Saxons. It is also known as Arthurian legend. King Arthur, when he becomes the prince, so his kingdom is already cursed. When King Arthur becomes the prince, his kingdom is already cursed. Cursed by demons. Cursed by demons. So he wants to help his people are dying, it's an infertile land, barrenness is there, no rain, no food, everybody is dying. King Arthur wants to help his people, so what does he do? He meets a fortune teller. Yes, my friends, please remember this name, Tiresias, most important character in English literature. Tiresias, note करो, बहुत से लोगों को पता नहीं होता है. 99% people don't know Tiresias. He is a blind man, but he can see future. It is said that he was peeping at goddess Athena when she was taking bath. So goddess Athena was taking bath, she was all alone, she was without clothes, he was looking at her. When Athena, the goddess of anger, the goddess of war, she knew this, she got to know this, so she made him blind. And then said, when he repented, she said, okay, but you can see future, you can see the things which are invisible. Tiresias is also a most important character which will appear in Wasteland, written by T.S. Eliot, 1922. याद रखना दोस्तों, don't forget these things. Tiresias is also narrator of Wasteland. He tells Arthur that to purify your land, you must bring, आपको एक चीज लेके आनी है, and that is holy. Okay, I think this color is not visible. कोई नहीं, हम दूसरा color लेते हैं. We go for black. Okay, guys, see. Holy Grail, Remember this point, Holy Grail, very important point. I'll tell you why. Because when Tiresias tells King Arthur that go and get Holy Grail, it is actually one of the most purest, finest, or the piousest thing at earth. In earth, it really says that Holy Grail is the most purest thing. It can save your life. Now, what is Holy Grail? There are two myths, two important myths. The first thing, here we have the concept of Jesus Christ. Holy Grail says that the first one was related to wine, second is related to blood. Now, what is Holy Grail? Holy Grail is a pot, is a mug, maybe a jug, where Jesus Christ had his last wine. So remember, when Jesus Christ got crucified next day, he had a dinner party with everyone, a supper with everyone, where including Jesus Christ, there were total 13 people, and it was Friday. That's the reason that most of the people don't like the date of 13 and Friday. Friday the 13th, the most dangerous date. Most of the hotels in Europe do not have the rooms called 13. They have 12A, 12B. Yes. So some people believe that it is a mug, a kind of mug, where Jesus Christ had his last wine, last drink. It's a holy thing. Some people say no. When Christ got crucified, his blood was spilling out. So some followers, some disciples who found the body of Christ hanging from a rood, the blood was dropping out, so they went with a pot and collected the most pious thing on earth, the blood. Now, Bible have multiple origins. One Bible says it was blood, another Bible says it was wine. Do you know there is also one Bible known as Devil's Bible? So they have multiple narrations. Now my point is, we go for this understanding, we go for this support. Why? Because remember, Dr. Faustus, when he has sold his soul and 24 years have been passed and the demon is coming to fetch his soul, Faustus gets scared at the end and says, come, come hells, fall on me, save me from the wrath of Mephistopheles. A drop of blood, even a half drop of blood would save my life. Which blood? Which drop of blood? A half drop of blood. He says, I am damned, I am cursed, and if I get Holy Grail and just one drop of blood, even a half drop of blood is thrown at me, I will be saved. Yes, so in literary sense, we will go for this concept, Holy Grail. Now, Arthur questions Tiresias that where is Holy Grail? So he says that Holy Grail lies at the center of the earth, and then says, go to east to find it out. Again a question that why they always say go to east. In Paradise Lost, they say to find the fruit of knowledge, Satan and Eve go to the east of Eden Garden. East lies knowledge. Who are Easterns in literary sense? We people, we are the Orients, and the Westerns are the Occidents. Even in Tempest, that island lies in the east. What is the idea of east? It is a post-colonial understanding, post-colonial narration. See, in fact, I discussed this thing in a proper way in my class, but right now we have video limitations, camera limitations. So we switch to the topic again. So he says that, okay, center of earth and in the east direction. So he goes for the journey, and when he goes for the journey, he appoints his 12 knights to protect the government, to protect his people. He says that in my absence, you prepare a kind of, unity and peace for everyone. And these 12 knights are called Round Table. These 12 knights are called Round Table. These 12 knights have their own individual virtues. Means every knight had a quality of his own, a particular quality where he was perfect. A particular quality where he was perfect. Now these 12 knights, the Round Table, also known as the Round Table, there was a question in exam that how Arthur gets these Round Table knights. It was a dowry gift. Yes, आर्थर को dowry gift मिला था. It was a dowry gift. इसको दहेज में मिलता है, याद रखना. Now, what happens here? Arthur goes for many journeys, many travels, many, looking for Holy Grail. He comes across problems, he fights demons, dragons, saves princes, nymphs, and after a lot of journey, for many years, when he comes back, and here I want to tell you this thing, that in Anglo Saxon, these stories were not written in an order. Every writer used to write about Arthurian cycle, but there is no surety who was the first, who was the second, who was the last. So one man, Thomas Mallory, from Dark Ages, he was the one, Thomas Mallory, who wrote Morte d'Arthur. Who wrote Morte d'Arthur, which means Death of Arthur. Morte d'Arthur, Death of Arthur. Here he says that Arthur returned after many years and he found that his wife Guinevere had an affair with the round table knight Lancelot. Guinevere had an affair with Lancelot. Lancelot has cheated Arthur, Guinevere had cheated Arthur, but at that time in ancient era, it was a system that only the brave deserve the fair. So if there are 2 or 3 boys willing to marry one single girl, so they would challenge each other, they would draw the swords and fight. One of the finest scene appears in Richard Sheridan's Rivals, where some guys are, trying to marry the lady called Lydia Languish. It is an important story. This is how I cite references. Read it. So, when they go for a fight, Lancelot and Arthur do the fight. Arthur gets injured. And then there was a question in NET exam. Who kills Arthur? Arthur's own illegitimate son, Mordred. Mordred takes this opportunity to kill Arthur. Arthur could save himself, but it is said that Arthur didn't kill his own son, knowing that let it be his illegitimate son. Mordred kills Arthur. My friends, this is an offline standard lecture. Anglo Saxons are really big topic. Generally, I take 3 classes for 2 hours to complete every detail. Anglo Saxon prose, Anglo Saxon poetry, Anglo Saxon characteristics, and yes, Anglo-Norman influence on Anglo Saxon. That's how I teach in my offline classes. I suggest you to book your seat for online classes or offline classes and learn like this. My friends, if you have any suggestions, please write it in comments. Share this video with every student and tell me on which particular lecture you want more videos. Write down in the comments. I personally read those comments. Thank you so much.